Alright, hi everyone. I'm going to go over some of the new 3D drawing tools in VARTISTE. Just as a reminder, you can get to VARTISTE from vartiste.xyz. Alright, let's get started. So here you are at the default VARTISTE layout. It's pretty good for getting started with 2D drawing. You've got the canvas right in front of you here, good for drawing or sketching or painting. We're actually going to grab this with the grab button and move it over here out of our way for a little bit. I'm going to go over some of the new 3D content creation and shape drawing and other 3D features in VARTISTE for now. So to get there, let's start by clicking on the Tools button and going over here to the Primitive Shape Constructs button. When we click that, I'm going to move this into the view a little bit better. You can see we've got all of these new line drawing tools and all of these shapes. For the shapes, you can just go ahead and grab one, move it around. You can put it where you want it. These little grabbers here let you resize it. And there you go. Now you've got a shape. If you press the B button, it copies and pastes the shape. So you can create as many as you want. And you can grab any of these shapes. Grab this one here. Press the Y button to turn off the UI for a little bit. Makes it a little bit easier to see. And then you could go ahead and click this Edit Vertices button if you want to edit them. You'll notice that it moves around depending on which shape is the most recently grabbed one. You can also get it to go away by pointing at any shape and pressing the B button. See, there it goes. You can click this Edit Vertices button and these vertex grabbers pop up. You can click and drag it around. Do this for whichever ones you want. And then when you're done, press B. And you can still click and grab it. And you can copy and paste even with the new edited vertices. Cool. One other way to use these shapes is to apply materials to them. If you go into the Material Packs button over here, get the Material Packs, and you can click the Draw with Material button. Now, if you go back to the shapes, you'll see they all have the material applied. So you can grab one just like before, and you can resize it and put it where you want it. Just like that. And of course, if you copy it, the material goes with it. And still edit the vertices, even with the new material applied. One really useful tool for editing these vertices is if you go into the mesh tools over here, move this into the view. If you go all the way down here, you've got the vertex handle grabber and the weighted vertex handle grabber. So if I grab the vertex handle grabber, go ahead and move it over here so it's intersecting all these vertices, click, and now it grabs them all at the same time. This out of the way. And the weighted one does the same thing, except it does a little bit of smoothing based on how close to the center of the square the vertex is. Okay, you can also, if you don't like the way that came out, click over here, close, and it gets rid of the shape. So let's get rid of the mesh tools. All right, now the other set of tools you notice over here are these 3D line tools. I'm going to unset the material from now. So the basic one is the 3D line tool. And click and drag, and you see it draws in 3D space. It's pressure sensitive, so if you push hard on the trigger, it draws a big line. If you push soft, it draws a little line. You go over to the colors, you can pick a color, and that gets, there you go. You have color, opacity too. It's like that. If you change the brush, if you use any of these brushes up here, you'll see that, let's up the opacity. You'll see that it creates basically just a number of strokes along the shape that you draw. You bring the canvas back into view, make it a little bit bigger. You see that the size of the brush on the canvas changes how the shapes are drawn onto the 3D line. So you can get a lot of cool effects with this just by changing the brush you use and how big you make it. One cool thing is if you use any of these bottom brushes down here, these stretch brushes, then you get the same kind of stretching just in 3D now. So you can take like this leaf brush and make a green color, and now you get a stretchable 3D leaf to draw with. Pretty cool, I think. And that's the 3D line brush. Makes these nice flat 3D lines. You also have all of these shape tools. So it does the same kind of idea, except now it's a shape. Well, that's kind of a funny looking shape that you can't really tell because it's got this brush applied. Let's just do a full square brush. And you can see now we've got a 3D shape, a 3D square. And you can see all these different shapes that come by default. Grab and moving around, same thing. If you push lightly on the trigger, you get small. If you push heavy on the trigger, it gets big. Now we got a big mess here. And once you finish drawing with the shapes, you can the 3D line tools, you can see that they become shapes. So we can do the same thing. We can clone it just like that, and we can delete it, and we can edit the vertices. Let's use our grabber because it makes it easier to grab a bunch of them at once. You notice it edits the final mesh vertices rather than the points on the line that you draw. That's the way it works currently. And just like the shapes, if you come over here and select a material pack and do draw with material, you'll see that these line tools are now drawing with the material that you selected. Like that, shooting star. One cool thing is that you can combine drawing with materials with the different brushes. So now you have this cool kind of fading color glass or metal effect going on here. Or the stars with the dots, kind of like confetti now. One little difference here is that the lines the line tools will apply the color that you choose as a multiplier if you're using a stretch brush. So we're not using a stretch brush there, so let's choose this silky stretch brush. And see, now it's green instead of gold. Still has the rest of the material, so we still have the metal and the smoothness, but the base color is now just green. So just using these built-in brushes, you can do quite a lot, and it's pretty fun. You can also, of course, resize them just like the shapes. It's not always perfectly really aligned, so you gotta kind of mess with it to get something. But there you go. All right. Another useful tool is the new shape cutout tool. Let's say you've got something you want here on this image, but let's say you just want just a little bit of it. So we come over here to the shapes, and now we've got this cutout to shape button. You can either use a pencil or point and click. I'm going to point and click for now. You just trace the outline of what you want to cut out. Let's give this guy kind of like an amoeba looking shape here. You let go, and now we've got a 3D cutout of our canvas. It turns it into a shape just like the other shape, so we can resize it this way, that way. We could edit the vertices if we want. We can duplicate it there. This does respond to the material that we're using, so if we go over here and use 3D shading, now if we go back and make a new cutout, use the pencil this time, you see now we have 3D shading on our sides here. Go back to flat, it'll be flat again. One handy use for this is cutting out from a photo. So here's a photo which I've brought into this layer here. Let's say we want to cut out the puppy and have it as a 3D object. We can go over here into the cutout to shape yet again. Now let's take our time with this one and try to trace out the edges. See what we can do. Cut across. Right now you can only do one shape, so if we left the canvas, that would be the end of it. So let's just stay on the canvas. And there. And now we've got puppy as a 3D shape. Nice. We can copy it, that, and now we've got two of them. Great. You can always edit the vertices, of course, and not super useful right now just because of the way that the faces are made, but you can do it. And again, the material takes effect. So if we apply a material pack here, let's see, maybe increase the repeat and fill it with the grass. And let's use our layers to put the puppy on top like that. Now let's do another cutout. Same thing. A little less careful this time. It's okay. There we go. Now we've got this puppy with the material applied. Even looks a little tiny bit furry. You could, of course, use a real, actual texture to try to get a more realistic puppy if you wanted to. Alright, now that I've cleaned up a little bit here, I'm going to demonstrate making a little sailboat with some of these tools, just as a way to go through it and get a little bit of a better sense for how everything works for making something. I'm just going to go ahead and start by importing a reference picture that I found from the internet here. If I go to load, I'm going to go import as reference object, and I'm just going to drag and drop the image onto the web browser window. Here's this picture of a sailboat. Just keep this up here just for reference. You can also load it by entering the URL or clicking this browse button. I find that just dragging and dropping usually works the best for me. Okay, now we've got that there. Let's move our canvas out of the way a little bit again here. And we're going to go over to our tools and our shapes. And let's see, this time we are going to trace a shape. So we're going to trace a long shape. So we click this button, and now we come back to our canvas, and we'll take this pencil because it's a little bit easier. You can grab things by just clicking the grab button real fast, and then it'll stick to it so you don't have to hold it down. I find it makes it a little easier to hold things like pencils sometimes. Let's see, I'm going to try to guess what the inside of the shape of this hole looks like. Really kind of smooth on top, and it comes over, into like that, and then oops, and come up like that. Yeah, not perfect, but it'll do for now. If you're doing something really serious, maybe you want to try a few more times. So we got this, and now we go to our material packs, and let's see. I like this wood one here. Let's go with that for now. Draw, hide our UI, and let's see what we got. Oh no, we got a ghost ship. That is not going to work for us because we want a solid ship. So let's delete this. And the reason we get this is because we're using the default smooth brush with less than full opacity. So an easy shortcut to fill this in completely is to go over here to the shapes and click on this solidify shape wands button. Now if we see it again, nice. It's a nice clean shape. So let's see, let's try to get this is not coming out super smooth. One thing we can do here is if we go to the miscellaneous tools and grab our weight, if we just stick it on the end here, we got a little bit of weight, let's actually duplicate it with B, and we'll stick both of these on here. There we go. Now it's a little bit smoother. It'll also smooth the trigger out for us, so now we can come in here. It's nice, smooth. Oh, still not quite. Let's go a little faster. And there we go. Now we have this nice kind of boat shape. It's a little bigger. Nice. I think this looks like a pretty good sailboat base, at least for us for now. So let's see what we got. What's the next step? Let's put a mast up here. go to our shapes. So let's go ahead and use this lighter material. And we'll come and grab our square tool here. And we could try to draw it, or we could use the weights to try to get a straight line. But we actually have a straight line feature we can use. We just press the B button. Now it just goes straight line. So we can go in different directions and it just updates to get a straight line. So this is how we're going to make the main mast here. Just like this to the top, and we can resize the brush, make it a little bit smaller, left and right on the joystick while you're grabbing it, and make this beam here a little smaller. Here, duplicate it, smaller, and there we go. Cool. So now we've kind of got a start of a sailboat. So let's see what's next. Next, why don't we go ahead and save this, not necessarily save it, but let's convert the shapes to a reference, just like that. And what this does is this converts it from individual editable shapes to a single reference object here. There's three kinds of mesh type objects in VRTist right now. There's drawable meshes, which we don't have in the scene right now, but they're the meshes that get the main canvas material applied to them. And you can draw on them and use your layers with them. Then there are these reference objects, which are basically just objects that you can move around in 3D. You can import them from GLB files or from Sketchfab, and they just basically represent little 3D groups, little 3D scenes, stuff like that. And then there are the shapes here, which are individual shapes that you can edit the vertices and stuff like that. So we have our reference object boat right now. We'll keep this here. And next step, I think, let's go ahead and make a sail for it. Now for our sail, we probably want to actually draw something on it, maybe some little logo or something or other, something to tell people that this is a serious boat, because it's got something on its sail. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with the, we'll use the cloth material, but let's go ahead and start by just getting rid of the material here. Maybe use the cloth material to start as the base. Grab this flat shape. You can see there's two flat rectangle-y kind of things. This one is already subdivided for us, so we can use our Vertex handle grabber, edit the vertices. Let's arrange it like this, and now we can kind of give it some waves like it's flapping in the wind. See the editing the vertices updates the normals too, which is pretty handy for us. Let's just a bit more. Put this roughly, let's make sure it'll look good. Yeah, I think this will look kind of like a sail. Just make it a little wider like that, and I think that looks good. All right, so now we've got our sail. What we're going to go do now is convert these shapes. Right now we've only got one shape, the sail, into a drawable mesh with this button right here. All right, so now you can see we've got the canvas here, we've got our drawable mesh. And let's see, let's expand the layers so we can get at it a little bit easier. I think we probably don't want to use these colors because we want to draw on it ourselves. So now we'll go ahead and use the layers to add a layer of kind of yellowy, green, maybe. It's been sailing around. Great. And maybe we'll use grunge brush, nice pink red. And let's just go ahead and draw a smiley face. Okay, now we can draw right on this shape. And we've got our pink smiley. All right, so now we've got our drawable canvas, and we probably want to attach it to the ship. Because right now, if we move the ship, canvas is over here, and so that's not going to work for us. What we need to do is we want to go ahead and let's see, we can convert the drawable mesh to shapes. So this breaks it apart into its constituent shapes. We've only got one right now. And so now we've got a shape for the sail and a reference object for the boat. Now we could deconvert the boat into its constituent shapes by using this button here, or we can use this grouping tool. So if you just make sure it's selecting both the boat and the sail, let's rearrange the sail a little bit. Click the trigger. Oops. And now you've got a single reference object with both of them. You can do this with individual shapes with references, shapes and references. It's pretty handy. You can also clone the reference objects with the B button. So if you wanted a fleet, well, pretty scary. But let's leave off the fleet for now and just stick to the one. So now we've got our boat. Let's add some more stuff here. So let's see, we haven't really touched the shapes too much. So let's go back to our the darker wood, and we'll use this face to make a little masthead. So let's see, got our shape, got try to put it in a good spot so it's easy to edit. Vertices, and let's just click and drag it so it looks convincing, or at least a little convincing, or at least pretends to be convincing. Let's just a little bit over here. Okay, now we've got our masthead. And use our grouping tool again, and voila, the ship is really coming along here. Some other things we can do. We can use the line tool. Let's do it without any material, and maybe we've got the grunge to a dark brown, and we can press B to get straight lines. That's really big. So you can always undo with X, well, not always, but sometimes. Let's make the tool a little bit smaller, and that will result in our line being a little bit smaller. Still too big, too small. There we go. And this is kind of like a big rope. Not great, but Not horrible. There we go. Now we've got some ropes going around. Could always import a rope texture if you wanted to. You can just drag and drop. You have texture files from someplace like Texture Haven or something like that with all the different maps. Just click and drag and drop either a folder or a zip file, or if you drop all of the textures at once while you've got the material packs window open, it will create a new texture for you. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. And here's some rope material from Ambient CG. Draw, see if that works any better for our ropes. Yeah, it's kind of hard to notice the details on these little features. Let's switch to just freeform. There we go. Now we've got some ropes running around and flying off a little bit. Let's see, what else do we need? Go back to this lighter wood, and maybe we can make some benches. We can use the grabbers here just to grab it, make it long. Oops. Then just like that. And B button just duplicated a bunch of times. And maybe some oars. Yeah, looks all beat up with the grungy brush. Perfect. Oops. Like that. And let's get some metal in there. Realize this is out of the screen. Let me bring it up in just a second. And you can use the grouping brush just on this little ore. Click it up here. There you go. You can see the ore, hopefully. And going that a bunch of times. One there, one there. The other side. There. Now we can take our grabber and just grab all of this, our grouper side. And now we have a boat that we made entirely VR and WebXR. I think it's a pretty good boat. It's got materials, textures, and the light, so light it so it doesn't crash. Let's see. Next. Now, if we want to export this, we can come over to settings shelf. Let's move all this out of the way. Starting to run a little slow here with all this stuff in it. It's okay. Still getting through. That's the load shelf. We want the export shelf. Click export, and then export shapes as GLB. That will export all of the reference objects and any loose shapes. If you do export as GLB only, then it'll only export drawable canvases. So export shapes includes everything. So let's do that. Hopefully it works. And there we go. Just gonna save it too. Exporting as GLB is great, but if you ever want to edit again, it's good to have a VARTISTE project file. So let's call this, oops. All right, and now you have a GLB file. You can bring it into Blender or Unity or your own A-frame WebXR project, whatever you want to do with it. And hopefully that gives you some insight into some of the 3D creation tools at your disposal in VARTISTE.